Try. There we go. My computer was so slow. Pushed the button and I was like, did I do it right? Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday book launch. My name is Malika Albrecht. I'm the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. We're a magazine, if you don't know about us, that only takes poems that have been rejected elsewhere. We are not open for submissions right now, but we will reopen again in February if you ever happen to have a rejected poem. If you're like me, you could wallpaper your entire house with them. Back when you used to get them by snail mail, be like, "Yep, one more for the wallpaper project." I'm super excited today. We've already had great conversation. Y'all are in for an amazing treat. I have a feeling that most of y'all already know that. For those of us who have not been fortunate enough to hear Rebecca Brock read, we will also be introduced to someone who delights us. I'm looking forward to this. Rebecca Brock won the Comstock Review's 2022 Muriel Craft Bailey Memorial Poetry Contest, the 2022 Kelsay Women's Poetry Contest, and Sheila-Na-Gig's Online Editor's Choice Award. Her work has been recognized and honored by some of my favorite magazines, including Cutthroat. If you don't know Cutthroat, look it up. Journal of the Arts, River Heron Review, and Whale Road Review. Her chapbook, Each Bearing Out, which was Kelsay's book 2022, was a semifinalist in the 2021 New Women's Voices Contest at Finishing Line Press. She holds an MFA from Bennington College in fiction. Her nonfiction essay, and I love this detail. Well, I love this detail. If you don't already know this, her nonfiction essay about being a working flight attendant on 9/11 was published in Threepenny Review and earned a Pushcart Honorable Mention. She has been a flight attendant for most of her life and is still surprised by that fact. Idaho born, she lives in Virginia with her family, but takes them westward as often as she can. I put her website there. You can find out more and more of her work, more about her at RebeccaBrock.org, and I will put it again in the, oh, you're a Bennington alum too? I didn't know that, Shamala. It's awesome. Rebecca, welcome to our Thursday book launch. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here. I'm excited to see everybody. Just changing my view so I can see you all. There, okay, thanks. I am gonna read kind of a smattering today. I was gonna start with the poem that sort of brought me into Malika's world. Our friend Juan Mobili was a guest editor for Banyan Review, and my poem opened the review and Malika's poem closed it. So it was, and then we met virtually. So that's how we ended up here. So this one is called It Wasn't Even All That Beautiful. This morning, I wished I could show you the way the sky held so much light. I thought we were late to catch the school bus. All the days of rain made everything sodden, the grass as we hurried towards the mud. But the day's light seemed vast. Even the old oak near the bus stop was backlit, beige pastel. A few brown leaves clung, still sparse and dry. I don't point them out to our son or the other mothers and children. Just another day at its start. Pale sunrise, me breathing. It wasn't even all that beautiful, is what I'm saying. The dead leaves, the bare limbs overlapping. The sky was not shocked through with color, and the trees collected trash at their roots. Even so, clouds feathered and foretold more rain or maybe fair weather, and as the kids were loading, the woman in the car behind the bus honked, threw her hands up. I wanted to tell her time takes what it takes, but I stood where I was and waved to our son. The bus driver took her time. It was just the sun rising on a morning, finally, without rain. Memories might be anywhere, little anchors, allowing us to rise. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna dive into my book, which was put out by Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And the wonderful Haley is here in the audience. I'm gonna read a poem from This spans distance a lot, my book, because I have two homes, with Idaho being my home, and then lived in Virginia, Maryland area for about 20 years. So a lot of this book spans that distance and how distance changed when the pandemic hit. So this one's called Bora Peak Earthquake, 1983. They didn't mean to frighten me. I was 8 and thought my thick-lensed, pink-rimmed glasses had gone off. The earth solid, but also liquid. The grown-ups at a loss. Our parents already at work, my little sister and I at the neighbors, the man hollering at us to get outside, the woman shouting to stay, because the ground might open wide, might swallow us. And I saw how their driveway would crack like a prehistoric egg of soil and stone. Again, my sister called, again, thinking it fun, the ride of it, the shake the earth was giving us, like a horse losing patience with the bridle or the buzzing bodies of the flies. I didn't know then how it always feels like that when you are grown. The push to stay and shelter in place, or the pull to venture out, to take the risk of street and sky, all along your indecision, the solidness of things shifting. Thank you. Thank you. Expanse, immensity, collapse. When did time start? My son asks, looming at 4 a.m. The animal in me startles, cries out, his face so close and sudden in the dark. It's only a moment that I don't know him, but it's the kind of thing he asks. He could mean the tick of the clock, his knowledge of bedtime, time to wake up, or he could mean his own beginning. Burdened with a restless mother, he understands distance is a thing to measure. How much longer, Mama? Between here and there, and when we are on our way toward home again. Already he's unearthed stories of stonefish in a Wyoming desert, of cliffs in Nova Scotia scored with prehistoric trees, an Oreodont skull in South Dakota. He knows that rocks themselves have ages. He might have been asking about old human things, temple gods and sacred rites, lost cities. He's raised his brother around ancient mounds in Ohio, walked undulations of an earthen serpent's twists and turns, once aligned with moon, sun, and steady seeming stars. Do you hear that? He asks, after I've coaxed him back beneath the covers. Snuggle down beside him, a sound like clanging pipes, like a radiator we don't have shutters, and I rise to look out the window, turn to tell him it is only hard rain. There are at least 2 ways to measure a life, the human one, and the universe's grander score of expanse, immensity, collapse. I lie awake to the wash of it. Thank you. And I was telling Malika when we were talking earlier, last time I left this next poem out, I got called out for it. So I just kept it. I kept it in my reading again. So if you've heard it before, my apologies. It's called Amanita phalloides, which is the death cap mushroom. Amanita phalloides. The mushroom, white, stunning, and suddenly there, near our house in a town, between the 7-Eleven and the vet clinic, not out in the dark woods, not even down by the creek that sometimes broke its banks, just there, by where we were always walking. A bulbous umbrella, waiting, like a Cheshire cat or a caterpillar with a face, the boys at that age of chub and wonder. I used my phone to catch what I could. Their curious heads bending low, just above the wide dome of its rounded top. That landlocked jellyfish afloat, air instead of sailing. My youngest reached out and picked it. I remember wincing at the brokenness. Things were always breaking those days. They didn't walk anywhere, but ran and crashed and hollered. So often I couldn't put things back to any sort of order. I wish now I'd let more be. And I must have wished that a little then, too. because I asked him to show me, and his brother turned to help him hold it, its head too big, now its stalk was snapped, wobbling the way their heads did not so long ago when I carried them everywhere. And then I heard the neighbor, hands pocketed, head at a tilt, ask, "What you got there?" He was so calm, a naturalist who knew the names of things. "What is it called?" I asked, or might have. But he said to go ahead and put it down, to have the children wash their hands, maybe even change their clothes. He spoke slow to me and gently, and so I didn't jump at first. It dawned slowly, and then I moved, the way mothers do. Thank you. I'm going to do a quick jump because I mentioned the caterpillar. This is my little chapbook from Kelsay Books. And I don't think I've read this one yet anywhere. It's called Imperial Moth Caterpillar. Pale green and long as a cattail, the caterpillar had a face like a ladybug shell, except yellow, spotless. They push a stick into the dirt to mark the spot before racing their bikes back to find me, coming slower on foot with the dog. Brothers, they call out to each other, call out to me, their cheeks red and legs pedaling. The dog pulls at his leash to greet them. To love something is not the same as naming it, but they know the names of things matter, and I am grateful to be asked something for which there is an answer. They hover, and the dog jumps and tugs as I try to stay still enough to type caterpillar, late summer, yellow face. I find the before, the during, even the remarkable after, a flying creature, pale yellow with brown spots, dusky and ready to mate by midnight. I'm still learning how to trust a creature with its own life, but they already know how to kneel, even to marvel at the body disappearing into what had seemed such solid ground. Thank you. All right, hopping back into the book. This is one I was talking to Malika again before about some of the devastation we're seeing in North Carolina, and I wrote this one for my dad, who's here. Hi, Dad. And it was kind of that idea of the distance collapsing during the pandemic, especially for us who had the tether of me being a flight attendant. But what you hold between those distances, I think, between people you love when you can't always get there. To my father, whose pitch has always been about surviving. Years and years you tried to teach me. Now I call home to remind you of fragility, as if I can protect you from one thing, and so everything, keeping mom, keeping you alive. And we know enough not to ask until what? The distance between us collapsed by a phone line. The world pitches variants, firestorms, floods. We go slowly toward forgetting and forgetting and forgetting. Now I am the reminder, the pitch of my voice often off or too high, filled as it is with too much gathering behind it. Thanks. All right. We hanging in there, everybody good? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and read the title poem for this piece, for my book. And for me, it does hold the whole together. I'm not sure it, I'll just read it. I broke the way land breaks. My son asks if I ever feel bad for inanimate objects. And I think of his Nana's house, or ours, his own room glutted with junk and treasure. And I wonder, no, I know, he will hold on too long to many things and fight his whole life to name what is missing. The world is so big, buddy, I want to say. Some things get a little lost. Even eating dinner, he paces, pops up and down, that mind a ricochet. His brother and dad and I numb on screen time. Sure, sometimes I shake my head like a horse, buzzed by something it cannot name besides the buzzing. These pandemic years have worn me like a sock with a sudden hole, the floor cold and my skin pushing through. I have wandered through all this trying and forget how to name space for what is here. It's not all my fault. The world is wild with tear and teeth, with weeping, and I am weaker than I expected. I broke the way land breaks, my soil stone and sun cracked by too much at once. Whether she said it or not, I remember my mother asking me to not be so hard. I looked elsewhere then too, propelled out, seeking heat, seeking rain and light, the whole storm. Kiddo, I should tell him, kiddo, it's easy to confuse what we love, what we need to love, what needs our love. We are only creature, near enough animal, near enough plant, near enough gone. I love all your faces. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to read a couple newer ones. I found what I wrote about parenting as my kids aged in the teenage years, there's so much more waiting, just waiting. It is like a potted plant a little bit, just being beside them. So I wrote this at the corn maze. At the corn maze, I wait. My body an old wound, always healing. I am used to waiting. My husband, my youngest son go without looking back. My firstborn hesitates. For a moment, he tends toward me. But yesterday he shouted like a man, I am a different person than you. And I said, looking up at him like a fool, I know that, I know. A mother knows everything, and then nothing. I watch him enter the maze and then exit the entrance twice before the sweet corn disappears him. And a hawk flicks up, golden against the mackerel sky, and up again, golden as the corn, catching light. Thank you. This is one more about my kiddos, and then I think I switch gears. This is the final poem of the book, and it's called Raising Glaciers. If you look, you can trace the path of us. Measure snowpack with your eyes, before, and now streams weep down mountain waterfalls, the face of stone scarred and pocked and jagged. No change goes smoothly. I have been trying to show my sons how to name loss. And is it betrayal to give them such language in a world shifting toward flashpoint and heat? What else is it to be human? I run out of words to answer their gaze, drive them to mountains, give them landscape, offer this disappearing world as if it is one long gasp of oh and ah and see. Do you see? I am raising glaciers, lost causes, boys with two soft hearts who know not to take stones or approach wildlife, who know how to name what is here, what is lost if we can't name it. Maybe the earth knows the sun is too much, and anyway, catches all the light it can. I think that one actually came from a prompt Heather Maloche put up years ago. I don't know if she remembers that. I'm going to switch to a kind of a different tone. Am I allowed to swear on here? Like one bad word? Even if it's a really bad word, just one?
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Okay. And it's a quote, so it doesn't really count. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Brene Brown, but I read a lot of her work years ago. Yeah, and this is uses one of my favorite quotes from her. So it's called Fine Lines after Brene Brown. She reads that midlife is when the universe puts its hands on you, draws you close and says, listen, I'm not fucking around. So she resets her shoulders, squares them down her back, and reminds herself without saying to stand up straight. Days feel tumultuous and full of moment. That awareness of brevity makes her begin to watch the sky, to look up more, to see the path itself, even the way it turns. Walking the dog becomes an excuse for walking the self. Something always hurts, sometimes a shoulder, sometimes a back or a hip, sometimes the brain as though weighted, as though shaded with loss and bewilderment, and sometimes the heart. Beats get noticed, the breaths prodded by the mind as deep ins and outs. She's learned it's normal to feel despair at this or any age, also rage. After all, she's doing the impossible. Anybody that's paying attention knows about upkeep and loss, the constant roil and change of the body, the heart. Thank you. And I just have two more little ones that aren't in any collection. I got a chance to stay at Porches in Norwood, Virginia, a number of years ago, I guess 3 years ago. And I wrote this there about a donkey that I heard from my room. I am, you are. At first, you thought it was a cow, dying horribly in great pain. But then you distinguish the donkey. Picture his great teeth, his ears laid back with effort, spindly legs splayed to better hold. You like to think he makes that double earful of noise loud as he can, because he wants to see how loud and long he can play it out through the valley, drown out the known and named beauty of the cardinal and the wren, louder than that whippoorwill at 5 a.m. or the rattling rumble of a train coming through. He keeps going, his belly working like a bellows, his throat scratching. He lets it rip through spring in these low mountains with their green and more green, turning up and up like volume every day. And you remember there was some long argument over a word in the last sentence of Plath's bell jar. Did she write brag of my heart or bray? And then you think of stubborn hearts, or one, at least, doing its own work in the world of insistence and upkeep. Brag works here, the beat steady and insisting, you're here, still here. But listen to that damn donkey lean into the crude crack of sound, his very own pitch and tonation, like he's trying to learn the limits, the width and depth and size of what he's been given, the noise he's supposed to make. This full belly bray like a prayer over this landscape, this holler, I am, I am, I am. And this is to be the last one. It was just a few months ago in Bracken, and this is one of those little poems that just kind of popped out and surprised me. So I thought I would end with her. It's called I Will Always Be Heading Somewhere. 2 states ago, a wild turkey shuttled across the highway in front of me, its feathered foliage close to her body, her long neck reeling like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She crossed 4 lanes of traffic in less than 15 seconds and just missed the front grille of a Peterbilt. Not all that long ago, I'd have chin nodded to the bird as my familiar. Foolish looking, but still hustling, but heading toward a line of trees she can't even see clearly, hurtling toward anything just to get her own damn self across that road. The road here is a slick ribbon, hovering behind and before me. Above me, just blue, miles of it. I have come farther than I ever imagined. Thank you, guys.
Oh, Rebecca, that is fabulous.
Thank you.
If people want to unmute and we just take a moment to say thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Fabulous.
Right.
Love you,
Thank you
Becky.
so much for coming.
Your wonder is so contagious. Like I just I feel like your wonder, your awe at these
Thank
small
you, Margie.
moments.
I
It's
see
really
Debbie down
beautiful.
there too. Thank you, Margie. Hi,
No,
Deborah
Wonderful.
Kitson. Thank you. It's lovely to
Margie, I
see.
think you hit on something, Margie, that was really, I think, stunning and emblematic of Rebecca's work, which is there's this beautiful way of observing and awe and wonder, but then there's also these deep, really philosophical, often, really what it is to be human, authentic moments that I have to say, just, in that whole body of work that you read today, Rebecca, all that just really creates a space that I think it's hard not to feel inspired. And I don't think I've ever, some of you have known me for the past 4 years doing this. I think I've ever felt like I wanted to write more than after hearing Rebecca. And I think it's because there was something very inspiring about your authenticity and your grace with words. The depth of the poems and the beauty with which you create a line. Just stunning.
That's so kind. Thank you. Thank you, Margie. Thank you, Malika. Just appreciate it so much. Thank you all for listening. It's fun to be able to share. So I appreciate it.
And it makes your mothers proud.
Aww.
Both your mothers.
That's my second mom right there.
That's awesome.
Love you, honey.
Love you too.
Does anybody have any questions for Rebecca or thoughts? Yeah, no, you're going to have so much fun reading the chat section, by the way.
Okay.
You really are. No questions? I don't think this has ever happened. Is everybody stunned or?
I'm not a poet, so I'm
speechless.
I'm afraid to ask a question because I don't I'm not a writer, but so I don't know, is this a silly
Please
question?
ask. We would love to hear you.
So Rebecca, like, how did you find your way to this poetry? I guess I'm wondering, have you always done this, or did you go to school for this? It's just beautiful. So I'm wondering what your journey is to writing.
Thank you. I think I wrote always when I was little, but I really thought I was a fiction writer. My MFA is in fiction. The first thing I ever had published was nonfiction, and then I tried to keep writing when I had my first kiddo, and I finished a draft of a novel. And I mean, I was on my way. I had the agent and everything, and then I got a little bit of a disheartening email back, and I just put it in a drawer and felt like it hurt less. It hurt more to try and write than to just set it down for a little while. My kid had a lot of needs when he was little, and so I just set it all down for a good long time. And then when my youngest went to school full day is when I let myself have like a day a week, and I started writing these little vignettes. The first one, he fell out of a tree and got caught by his ankle, and it was such an image. He's upside down. And so I remember writing that, and I love that it was like stopping time a little bit, because especially in motherhood, it's such a blur of time. So it's like a little stone to keep of memory. So I just remember taking these vignettes to friends and being like, do you think did I write a poem? Like, do you think this is what happened? And then another dear friend suggested I join a group that writes a poem a day in February. And they are so kind and supportive there. So I don't know, I kept going. I just kept finding my way. I fell in love with what a poem could do. And I found I could keep the intensity you needed to look at a poem. You could spend an hour and do it. Whereas to try and hold all the threads of a story or a novel or an essay, I just don't know if I can do that anymore. So yeah, I just fell in love with the form and what I could do with it. And then that I was having success with them as well, which is always a nice bonus, to have other people reading your work and responding to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked the question, Margie. I mean, I think that was and it was nice to hear the answer, as I think some of us can relate to how you find poetry. And it made me think, Rebecca, about when Lucille Clifton was asked about why are her poems so short. She said, my kids are little.
Yes.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to say, I broke the way land breaks. I need that poem printed out so I can read it pretty often.
Okay, I'll
I
get it
just
to you.
adored that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And
Mhm.
Regina responded to fell in love with what a poem could do. I think that makes sense. And I think that joy is inherent in your poems of the process of writing. So thanks for that question, Margie. Does anybody else have one or a thought that you wanted to pass on?
I have
Yes.
one, if I
Please
may.
jump in.
Hi, I'm Helene. I met your poetry through Juan. He introduced me
Oh,
to your work. And I'm delighted to hear you read. You're a great reader.
thank you.
I love that the way that you kind of have this like intense gravitas, but then it's very conversational. There's something about that juxtaposition that I just love. I am an editor and a writer, and I'm working on my new collection and ordering it. And as you were reading, I was wondering if I could ask you, how do you order your books? Like, what do you take into consideration?
Mhm.
I always love hearing that from writers, and I love sharing it with my own clients and students.
Mhm.
So I wonder if you could just take a minute to say, like, this is how you approach it.
Yeah, I think I started with such a stack of poems, not knowing I had the idea of what the manuscript was going to be. And then when I started going through it, I found what it was really going to be. And so I spent a lot of time, it sounds so silly, but either laying it out in a hallway or even taping poems to the wall. And when I had the general idea, like just nuts and bolts, I would sometimes read the end of one and the beginning of the other to see what that transition was. And then a friend that Heather and I have in common, Ruth Lear, was helping me. And I had a very dark, sad poem at the end of my first chapbook. And she was like, do you really want to leave us here? Like, is this really where you want to end it? And so I really pay attention, even in readings. I tried to leave a little bit of breath or light at the end. And then I tried to do sections, and with the Wayland breaks, I went with age a lot with my kiddos to try and stack that in chronologically. But it really felt like just feel and reading it and rereading it and hoping I got it right. And I still sometimes want to rearrange it. I always tell this, when I was at Bennington, Donald Hall was there reading, and he was in the front of the stage, this whole auditorium of people, and he had, his gray hair, and he's sitting down reading his poem, and he stops in the middle of reading and puts his hand up and pulls a pencil out and like edits the poem in his book that's in his hand. and then keeps reading. And I feel like that a little sometimes. Like I still wish I could prune and rearrange, but
Right, like they're never fully written. They're never finished.
no. And I know your work, Helene, there was a cow poem in Well Road Review a long time ago
Oh my
that is
goodness.
still stunning. Like it's
Oh my
a
God.
stunner. Yeah, I've followed you since then, so I know your work. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry.
And on that note,
Oh my
Helene will be celebrating in 2025 here on a Thursday
Oh,
is what
good.
we're trying to work out, right, Helene?
We are? Did you tell me that?
Yes.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yes,
I'm sure.
yeah, check your email.
Oh
'cause
my
I think
gosh,
we were
I don't know if I got that. Did I respond?
Yeah.
We'll have to have an off camera
I was
conversation.
gonna say, so check
be
your email,
lovely.
please, because we had been back and forth. So check for spam.
I will,
one-
for sure.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And the very last poem in the new collection is the cow poem, by the way.
That's
Good.
so ironic. Oh, I love
As it should be.
synchronicity.
It's crazy.
That is fabulous. Yes.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for
Great.
beautiful reading.
Thank you.
I love that question, and I love that answer, and I love that this came full circle. That's fabulous. That is beautiful. It feels like we're about ready to go to open mic. Do people feel that way? Any other thoughts or things that we want to say? Rebecca, I do want to point out what is a good way for people to get the book, and if they want a signed copy, could they reach out to you?
Yeah, I have them here. My signed copy link isn't working, but on my website, there's a link there. And I can try and figure it out, but my email's on there too if you want it signed. I have some copies
Perfect.
here, just not my PayPal button fell apart. So, but they are on, Sheila-Na-Gig sells them and she does free shipping. So it's, the link is right on my website when you open it up. And it's on, Amazon and Bookshop and all of that too. But I like
I'll
to,
put the making sure everybody sees the website in the
Yeah.
chat section. Good. All right. Thank you so very much. That
Yeah,
was
thank you.
beautiful. Everything I would have hoped for and more.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hear everybody else read now.
That's the fun part. Now you get to relax some.
Yes.
I want to let people know I have the list of open micers. If there is a poem that you need me to stop the recording on, if it's still being shopped, let me know, and I will pause. Okay. So Shamala, I'm coming to you, and you are our first reader.
I just wrote this, so I wrote it during a workshop in a recent conference, and I haven't had time to even type it up, so bear with me. It was from a prompt, and oh dear, I can't remember the person's name, but it was from a prompt. So, dead seal on the beach. We walk around it. Look, perhaps call some official service. Report it. Pace on. Try not to look. Try not to look. There is no rescue after all. Stay calm. Feet into the sand, forward, step by step. Waves, salt bless you, sting your skin. Be calm. There are riptides hiding. Be calm anyway. You can't escape the rip. So why feel anything? Stay calm. Hold your heart, care, spirit, whatever is left, tightly, safe, separate. People walk all around. 1,000 seals huddle close inshore, hiding from orcas hunting in the deep waves. Hold yourself together, tight, inside, apart, eyes forward or shut to hide the dead seal. Wonder about its heart. Forgive the world that death.
Forgive the world that death. Shamala. There was a lot. That poem was working on multiple levels.
I
Thank
really
you.
have to apologize for the person who came up with that prompt because I can see her face, but I can't remember her name right now. And it was a heck of a prompt.
As soon as we get off, the name's gonna come right to you. That's what happens. I'll come to Lynn next for our open mic.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and it's wonderful to see so many new friends. Many of you were with me last week at Bright Hill, and I'm Rebecca. Your work is just beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so this is a poem called Tabitha. We seem to be on an animal kick for the first two poems. Tabitha, pressed roses and peonies. I always thought it peculiar to do that to those tender petals. The wheezing sound of a book closing on such delicacy. Petals dried, then scattered to waft their perfume. The frame of the glass of the hothouse, singing plants. The ivy planted where we found the fawn's remains, pressed against our house. How had we not known? No stench, dried, skin and muscles gone, bones unmoved where she lay. Flagstones, dust and leaves swept, the sky uncaring against the care with which she lifted the bones for burial. Thank you.
Oh, that is beautiful. Gosh, I actually think those poems are talking to each other too. Thank you guys. Had y'all picked it out before? Okay. No, but I mean, I think that's beautiful. And make sure that after you've read that you check the chat section because people are writing comments. Allie, I'm coming to you next.
All right. So this poem that I want to share, I wanted to share this before Rebecca read, but after Rebecca read, I feel even better about sharing this poem. I loved the way, Rebecca, that you used such precise description to sort of locate these memories in place and time, to locate yourself or your loved ones in place and time. And I feel like that's what this poem attempts to do as well. It's an ekphrastic poem, so it's based on this sculpture by Alison Saar. If you want to click the link, you can see it. This is Immigration. I'm not allowed to look behind me at what I've brought. The suitcase of wedding photographs, wishes tied with ribbon scraps. They packed me so much food, and in the food, seeds. I could forget my name like you misspell it and conjure a new, unmispronounced being. I could forget all the things you want me to leave, my language, my people, their hopes for me. Maybe it would even be a relief to sever the strands, pretend I'm not braided into a history I want or need to leave behind. I could pretend that the scissors are sharp enough to cut myself out. Maybe I could find a single room to let, rather than finding space for all the aunts, uncles, cousins, younger sisters, brother-in-law, grandparents, greats, and great-greats. Everyone takes up so much space in my luggage, and if I weren't carrying ashes and feasts, I'd hardly take up any space at all. I would barely be an inconvenience. America, you've told me to make the cut. Thank you.
Holy smokes. Wow. And I say it again, we do have the best open mic. That was amazing. Thank you guys. And Allie, I'm going to tell you the same thing. Make sure you check the chat section. Karen, I'm coming to you now, my beautiful co-host. There she is.
Hey, oh, okay, I'm unmuted. I got a short one tonight. This is Breathe After the Muses' Eight of Swords. Was it only a tarot pull? After an eon of voices rattling words, the rise in your chest conjures space within the cage of your ribs to weep and to sow and to sweep and to hoe and to know the rise of your chest as a conjure of space within you to breathe, into nurture, into grow, into harvest. Word Smith, you have eaten your sustenance. You have expanded into this time to breathe into deep and dive into blind and to come up for light and shine through and through your words. That's it.
I have to tell you, that was an interesting one, Karen, because the musicality was like a spell cast. I loved it.
Oh, good. It's
Yeah,
inspired
no,
by a
it's
tarot card. Oh, I have a friend that's going to be doing a free Zoom workshop on using tarot cards to write poetry. And I've got a really long flyer, but I'm going to put my email address in here if anybody's interested.
Is Angela Driven?
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to put my email in here if anybody's interested in getting information about it. It's a free Zoom and she does a great thing. So yeah.
Yeah, that'll be amazing. Thanks, Karen. That's a perfect segue into that. Chrissy, I'm coming to you now.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this will be in whatever the new collection ends up being. It's called Folding Myself into an Origami Girl. Each crease a word on place, on purpose, with its own premonition. Thank you.
I love it. I can't wait for that one to come out. Oh, I'm not muted. It said I was muted, but I'm unmuted. Good. Yeah, on purpose with its own premonition. Beautiful. Yeah, this is the fun part. Regina, I'm coming to you now.
Hi, everyone. So it is National Hoodoo Heritage Month. I didn't even know it was a thing, but I feel affirmed in that. I feel affirmed in that. I started out thinking that, knowing that today I was going to read a poem that was published in the Mid-Atlantic Review called New Hoodoo. But then this lady showed up in my mind yesterday. And she's a figure that I saw often in my youth. And so I'm going this way. This is called Holy Ghost Work. Where are the women in white? I used to see them, one more than others, marching swiftly down Tyson Drive where my grandmother lived, stern-faced and purposed. Surely. I didn't know who they were really, too young to care. They were just there, walking up and down the streets, Bibles in hand, eyes fixed, women in white, head to toe covered in white, white winding round and round, bound, head to neck to chest, like light to belly, dropping straight to the floor, white stockings, white socks covering toes, suppressing sin for self, others too, shielding from lascivious eyes that dared to try to enter in. I imagine her fingers dripping oil ready to cast out evil, right the wrongs. Where are the women in white? I suspect we need them now, right now.
I suspect we do need them. That is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, I feel like we're kind of in an invocation part of this open mic. Awesome. Let's see. I have two more readers, Laura and then Cal. If I have somehow missed you, please let me know. It's certainly possible.
Hello, everyone. This is really new, very short, not sure it's even done. It's called After. We know now that the picnic tables we sat on in the heat of day, cooling ourselves with local Pilsner and a breeze off the French Broad, have all washed away, reduced to splinters in that same stream, become torrent, become rage, become death. Thank you.
Thank you for writing that. I wish you never had occasion. I'm gonna let that sit for a minute. Cal, I'm coming to you.
Okay. I have one that Pat Revere Seal posted this morning on Facebook. And I really liked it. It's called Try to Praise the Mutilated World by Adam Zagajewski. Try to praise the mutilated world. Remember June's long days and wild strawberries, drops of rosé wine, the nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. You must praise the mutilated world. You watched the stylish yachts and ships. One of them had a long trip ahead of it, while salty oblivion awaited others. You've seen the refugees going nowhere. You've heard the executioners sing joyfully. You should praise the mutilated world. Remember the moments when we were together in a white room and the curtain fluttered. return in thought to the concert where music flared. You gathered acorns in the park in autumn, and leaves eddied over the earth's scars. Praise the mutilated world and the gray feather of thrush lost, and the gentle light that strays and vanishes and returns from without end. And that is, I messed up. From without end is not part of the poem. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much for reading that, Cal. I just, you said it's Adam. How do you spell the last name?
Oh, I just closed it, but I can get it back.
That's okay. I'll put Z. People can look it up. Thank you. That was perfect. Perfect poem for today's open mic. I want to thank everybody for being here. If I missed anybody who wanted to read, Helene, did you want to read something?
Not tonight. I just spent the entire day back-to-back students. I think I.
No worries. I just didn't want to, leave without asking. Anybody else that I might have missed that might want to?
The poem's in the chat now.
Kamala, thank you. Good. That'll give people a chance to grab it. Yep.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so very much for being here, Rebecca. Thank you for beautiful poetry. Everybody for a wonderful community and open mic, always people on fire. Thank you.
Thanks, Malika.
Thank
Helene,
you.
check your email from me. Thank you. Bye, guys. Be well.